Welcome to today's episode of How the Game is Won, and we are now in Moscow for the FIDE candidates tournament that is being played during the course of March 2016. This particular game, round 1, 11th of March 2016, features Viswanathan with the white pieces and Veselin Topalov with the black pieces. Must remember that in the 2014 candidates tournament, Anand began with a win over Lev Oronian, playing e4, and obviously he sees no reason why he should deviate from that chosen strategy in the 2016 candidates tournament. In this game, particularly, we begin with e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, knight f6, and of course Topalov will uncork the Berlin variation of the Spanish, simply because it's an opening which largely cannot be refuted, and what better way to start a tournament when you're playing the first game with the black pieces than bring out the Berlin Wall and make sure that you tie everything down into a dead drawn position. And then continued with d3, bishop c5, castle short, b6, c3, castle short, knight on b to d2, and knight e7. This is a plan that was introduced by Vlad in his game against Oronian in 2012. The idea is to take the game into a territory where pawn structures would not be symmetrical, because in an asymmetrical pawn structure is generally your best chance of being able to create a passer. Continuing d4, e takes d4, c takes d4, bishop b6. And now you can see we have the position with quite a couple of imbalances. White has beautiful symmetrical pawn duo sitting with d4, e4, and but black has absolutely no problems in finding squares for his pieces. If Vishy can develop his bishop on c1 and the rook on a1, then he should have very few problems as far as this position is concerned going forward. Continuing, rook e1, centralizing the rook, bishop g4, h3, bishop h5. Here come Anand and puts his novelty in the game by playing a4 on move 12. Continuing a6, bishop f1, rook e8, a5, bishop a7, queen b3, knight c6, which is, as Boris Dolphin pointed out in the commentary room, good players are always flexible with their plans. In other words, the knight c6, e7 wasn't played, and the intention is to return back to c6, but Topalov sees the position has changed, and since his knight e7 move, and this is the best continuation right at the moment, and it may look weird that Topalov in the game itself had no hesitation whatsoever playing the move. We continue with d5, knight d4, knight takes on d4, bishop takes on d4, queen takes on b7. Is whether it's good or bad as far as the position going forward is concerned, the pawn had to be taken. Anand had made his previous moves with the intention of taking on b7, and so there was no backing out now. Knight e7, which is a strong move being played here by Topalov, and the knight not only threatens to jump through to the c5 square, but also opens a route for the queen to come out to either f6 or h4. White's pieces are uncoordinated at the moment, and the undeveloped white queen, or the should I say that, yes, the opening while the white queen that is sitting all the way out on b7 is looking almost a little bit silly in this position, and Anand really needs to be careful to make sure that that queen doesn't get trapped, cornered, and taken off the board. Knight c4, knight c5, and queen d6, so queen c6, and as you can see, the queen is threatening to maraud its way down into that h4 square. The dark square bishop that's sitting there on d4 is pinning the f2 pawn back against the white king. So it's not looking comfortable for Anand at all in this situation. Knight b3, rook b1, knight takes in c1, rook and b takes in c1, rook b8, queen a6. So right at the moment, if you have to do a quick add up, you can see that white is 2 pawns up, and black may regain at least one of the pawns, but then he'd be left in a slightly poorer position, mainly because the white's a5 pawn, as you can see over there, is super strong. It's a super strong passer that's been able to create there, and we'll have to see to what extent that plays a role in the remaining moves going forward. Queen h4, rook c2, rook takes in e4, knight e3, queen d8, queen c4, bishop d6, bishop d3. Once again, incredibly accurate play by Anand in a very complex position. Rook f4, bishop takes in d6, h takes in d6. The commentators in the live commentary in this position said that instead of playing h takes in d6, Topalov should maybe have looked at something like bishop e3 with bishop e4, but h takes in d6 was played, which allowed g3 to be played. Rook e4, a6, queen e8, rook c to e2, and this is what's being referred to as a very human move. In the commentary booth, the computers were all screaming for Anand to play queen c7, bishop takes in e3, rook takes in e3, rook takes in e3, f takes in e3, queen takes in e3, check. But most players would not see this move and reject the variation because of the very obvious type of counterplay that can arise out of the situation after, say, king h2. But back to the game at hand, which was the rook c to e2. We had bishop b6, queen b3, rook a8, king g2, queen f4, b3, rook a4, so rook d4, and b takes in a4, which is here, for instance, queen c2 would have been a much more natural type of move to play with queen takes in a6 and knight f5, but b takes in a4 was played, rook takes in b3, and although white's advantage has been reduced at some point to a large extent at this point, it's still much more pleasant to be in Anand's shoes in this game than what it would be to be in Topalov's shoes. Knight c4, rook a6, a5, and this is a nice little tricky solution that Anand came up with in the game. Bishop b4, rook e8 check, king h7, rook and 1 up to e7, rook c3, knight d2, and obviously Anand is transferring his knight across to be able to get it onto a better square, and that better square that he's aiming for will be that e4 square. Rook c2, knight e4, there you go. And f6, which prevents Anand from playing the knight after g5, but it exposes a major weakness for Topalov all across that 7th rank. And h4, which stops black from being able to bring the pawn up to g5. Rook takes an a5, rook f7, g5, h5, and now Anand's mating net has been cast solidly and it cannot be broken, and it's a matter of solid technique to be able to bring home the point from this point. And as we can see, with rook takes an f2 check, knight takes an f2, rook a2, rook on f2 up to f8, rook takes an f2 check, king h3, g4 check, king takes an g4, f5 check, and rook takes an f5. And now that Topalov is a complete exchange down, there's absolutely no ways to be able to hold off the super powerful attack that Anand's got going here at the moment, and hence in this position Topalov resigned. And that, my friends, is how the game was won. Please feel free to post any comments, questions, criticisms you have in the space down below. Don't forget to share this out amongst all your chess friends. And remember, down below the screen is a red subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button, that way stay subscribed to my channel for all the new content that comes out today. And remember to stay carved up for the win, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.